with
Go ahead.
with the with the dream analysis, because I've always been curious and fascinated like genetics and the history of genetics, and I always thought it would be super cool to be like to figure out where my genetic lineage came from. Is there any way you could maybe tap into dreams and figure that out? Because I was listening to a podcast. It was this NFL player, and he was really struggling with substance abuse and like anger, and he went to do like dream analysis. I'm not sure if it was like a ketamine clinic and it helped, and it was like ketamine and dreams. I forgot what the whole thing was, but basically it took him, I think it was like over a year, and he was trying to figure out where his anger is stemming from, because overall he's very successful. He's happy, but he just always has this anger. And what happened was he had these consistent dreams. It's almost like he had these stories going through his mind when he was dreaming, and he figured out that he came from like a Nordic place, and where his anger stemmed from was that at one part of his dreams there was these two brothers, and one of the brothers, they were both in royalty, and they disliked each other, and this brother had a child with this woman that the other brother really liked, and they had this child, and the one brother killed the other brother that basically fell in love with the woman that they both loved. And somewhere down his genetics he was the kid that was born from there, and his anger stemmed from his, you could say, that child's father being murdered by his brother. And that's what he came to realize, that's where his anger stemmed from, was the genetics of this boy that was born, and his father was killed by the father's brother. So that's kind of what he realized. And after he realized that, he was able to do some kind of counseling, and he was able to decrease that anger. But once he kind of realized where his anger stemmed from, he was able to relax more, and that anger dissipated a little bit over time. I was curious, is there anything legit to that? Is that just another coincidence, or what's your opinion on that?
I would take it for granted that he's not lying and just accept that he had that experience. I'm not certain, and when I say it that way, it's like there's always the possibility people are just blowing smoke, and you got to take things with a grain of salt sometimes. But I think for the most part, those kinds of stories are real. He says, I had this experience. Here's what I experienced. Here's what I think it means. And we're getting an honest report. So we just deal with it as if, okay, this is true. This actually happened. That said, I'm not sure if that specific explanation is true. I mean, I'm certain he believes it, and there might be some validity to it in some ways, but we're getting into the realm of past life regression with hypnotherapy. I'm not sure about that either. And what I do is I'm very, like I said, credulous skeptic. I don't accept it as true, and I certainly don't understand it well enough to say it's not true, but I don't practice that, and I don't know how to make sense of it, so I kind of leave it off to the side a little bit. That said, I don't think if you do anything and it's not harmful to you and you're better off for it, God bless. It's one of those things where it's like, you're not hurting anybody. Hey, if you did past life regression and that explained some things about yourself and it improved your quality of life, I don't have a problem with it. I don't practice that. I'm not sure I would recommend it or endorse it because I'm not really sure what it is or how it works. That being said, there is some spooky woo stuff to the idea of Carl Jung's collective unconscious, and there's actually multiple layers to it. That one layer is that kind of genetic component. So there was a theory going around in the kind of eugenicist times, which was late 1800s into the early 1900s, and I would say some of the most famous eugenicists, to save your YouTube monetization, we'll say Uncle Adolf was one, and so it does not have a good reputation. Even though compared to dysgenics, the idea of de-evolving in some ways. Anyway, it's a whole broad thing that's very fraught with political significance. But when they thought it was just, we can learn the science of how to make a better human. During that time, they were looking, and they had just discovered this is post Charles Darwin, and we realized evolution and the connectedness that we are connected to all the ancestors going. But now we had that as a religious or spiritual concept going, is ancient, being connected to our ancestors. And then we realized it's literally, physically, biologically true. There was a theory, and I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. There's a word for it. I'm trying to dig out of my brain. But the idea that you could have ancestral memory. And I don't know if you know, there's a movie coming out this month. It's called Dune Part 2. I don't know if you're a fan of the Dune book series and movies about the Dune, Dune, the desert planet with the spice and those sandworms.
Oh, no, I'm not familiar, no.
Yeah, well, one of the things he proposed in the book, or described as a this is fantasy world. It's a sci-fi fantasy world. He proposed that the spice melange that is harvested on this planet, created by these great worms, you ingest it, and it helps to unlock for the mother, reverend mothers, what they call them, the kind of a female order of priests in a way. It helps unlock their ancestral memory, so they could actually have conversations with their ancestors in their head and ask, if I was related to Richard III or whatever. I'm not, but probably some Scottish royalty. But I could actually have a conversation with him and say, hey, great Uncle Richard, talk to me about this thing. I would have him in my head. So this was a theory they actually kind of really took seriously, this kind of genetic memory in a way. And we hear that today with trauma memory being proposed in some circles, that a long history of and maybe even if, certainly in the Black community, it's been proposed, but maybe also in Jewish community, the idea that being through, 2,000 some odd years of variety of suffering is carried forward, and modern Jews actually feel it and are connected to that in a way. This is all to go to the idea of, so this theory was taken seriously and researched and given scientific credence and whatnot. And then we get to Carl Jung, and he's proposing, well, that's one layer of his idea of the collective unconscious, is like a literal genetic racial memory in a way. And by that, they just meant human race, your lineage. It has different layers as well. And so that's the physical biological layer that they would, is conceptually valid, but we're not really certain how that works either yet. So we still haven't validated that 100%. There's a mid layer, which is that humans share a common experience by virtue of being human. We have generally 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. We need to eat and sleep and poop, and we feel love and hate. And so there's a lot of these experiences that are common to the human condition, and we share a kind of collective consciousness of these types of experiences because we have them in common between us. We have a common consciousness of the human experience itself. So that's a middle layer that I take most seriously. So in dream analysis, seashells, the example, they might mean something very specifically different, sure. But let's say 2 people dream of swimming in a lake, and they have very different experiences of that lake, but lakes are going to have a common human experience. We know we must drink water. We know water is wet. We know too much water and we drown. All these different concepts that are related to how humans interact with water by virtue of the fact of being human. I've over-explained it, but you get the idea. Then there's actually another layer, which is the spooky woo side of things, the possibility that we all, literally human beings, all share a psychic connection, that literally we have a collective consciousness that we all participate in. I don't know what to do with that either. So the genetic stuff isn't quite proven. The psychic stuff is possible, but I don't know how to make sense of that either, or certainly to my knowledge, it has not been proven. So I think that middle layer of common human experience makes the most sense to me. And I don't even know if I answered your question again.
No, it's all good, but it's all good. It's still good conversation. I'm paying attention. You're saying a lot of cool things. I'm listening, so nothing wrong with that. It's all good. So when you do your dream analysis, do you feel like there's a correlation? If, for example, if somebody sees fire or water, does that usually represent anything? I know you said that it varies from person to person, but is there any kind of correlation between, like, okay, I've seen 100 people, and let's just say 10 of those people saw water, and now since they saw water, now they have, for some reason, have more money. Is there any kind of correlations to anything? What should you maybe take from your dreams, or what can you take from your dreams to maybe better your life or bring meaning from dreams? What kind of meaning can you take out of from dreams?
Definitely. I mean, lots of good my brain's going 5 directions at once. That's how I do the dream analysis. I just, everything I think, I say it, and hopefully I speak long enough that someone goes, that thing you said, wait a minute, that feels right. Say that again. We follow that path. That's part of it. Is like, I mean, this is a tangent of a tangent, but my analysis are always a collaborative process. I tell people the answers are not in me. You are inviting me into your head, and hopefully I'm the guy, standing over your shoulder with a flashlight going, do you see what I see? What if we look over here? What if we look at this thing from a different angle? So what I do is kind of, in a way, kind of ramble off suggestions. What if we look at it this way? What if we thought about it this way? And then the people I'm talking with say, I don't know, that doesn't feel right. Fair enough. You can't be wrong. You literally can't be wrong. If you will, there's almost like a visceral feeling you get from somewhere in your gut up to your head, like a zing, and you go, that's it. That's it. Wait, that thing. And that's how we construct that meaning. I was going somewhere with that. You asked about common symbols and possible prosperity, that kind of thing. Okay,
not necessarily prosperity, but just like in general, does like maybe seeing a lot of fire, that means there's gonna be chaos in your life. Not necessarily prosperity. I'm just saying, is there any kind of correlation from like, if you see these things or feel these things in a dream, this is kind of where it's pointing you towards?
Yeah, so not in my experience. So I've done, probably 50 to 100 random loose dream analysis type stuff over the last 25 years almost. And then not also since starting this. I haven't found those kind of direct commonalities. I do find repeating patterns in some way that, and it's all related to the universality of the human condition. We're all going to face different challenges and struggles. We're like the most recent episode that may or may not be out by the time this comes up, but a person was conceptualizing themselves in their dream, the experience they had. They're running, they're in a giant field, and they see a castle in the distance, and they decide they want to get to the castle. And they start walking, and it's a long way, and they're not getting any closer very fast. So they start running, and then they see a kind of like a classic Disney witch, like a crone off to the side. And as he approaches and runs past, she tells him to quit, to give up. And he's like, I'm not giving up. I'm running to the castle. Screw you. Well, he keeps running and leaves her behind. But then in the distance, there she is again. It's the same, and she says the same thing to him. So this cycle repeats multiple times, and he's like, just not getting any closer to the castle. And so in some ways, in a fit of frustration, he gives up. He just decides to stop running and stand still, and instantly he's in the castle. She was right. He needed to quit to get to his destination. So for this individual, what we worked out, and this is a bit of a spoiler if it's I don't know when this or not, exclusive content for your channel. You'll get the analysis first. We looked at this as, so what's the common human experience? People have goals, someplace we're trying to get to. You're in a wide open place. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. You pick a place you want to go that looks appealing to you. It's a castle. I want to get there. Well, running doesn't seem to be making any progress. The specific method to achieve a goal is not producing a result. And there's a person, and we had a hard time nailing down why it was like a witch woman, like an ugly crone. And then even after the analysis, it popped into my head, and this is why I titled the episode. The phrase that occurred to me to explain the woman is the ugly truth. Like he didn't want to hear what she had to say. He wanted to keep doing his chosen method for approaching the goal. And the ugly truth was, you need to admit to yourself, this is not getting you anywhere. This is not approaching your goal at all. This commitment to running and to continuing to run, even though you can see you're not making any progress. So it was the assessment of methodology towards a goal. Is it functional? No. Stop doing the wrong thing and change path. Try a different approach. So he was like, whoa, yeah. I mean, he felt it. And this was actually a dream he had when he was very young. And he was remembered it ever since, because it was basically a profound turning point in him changing, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, him changing his approach to things of like being a little too stubborn about doing things his own way and not listening to advice, maybe. There was an element to it in there. So all of that goes to demonstrate that I think we can draw meaning. The dreams do have meaning most of the time, And I think dreams self-select for meaningfulness, because dreams that you wake up from and you have a feeling of like you feel some kind of way about the dream. Like some dreams you just wake up from, it was nothing. You feel nothing. Dreams you feel something about. There's something there that probably is worth looking at.
Yeah, 100%.
So
It's almost like when you say that, it's almost like I'm thinking like dreams are a subjective story, and just like stories like Pinocchio, Snow White, they all have a meaning of some sort, and that meaning is subjective. So it's like you went through this dream, and it's almost like only you could understand this dream, but like your role is to think about ways that you can interpret this dream. So it's like only a person that had that dream can fully understand what it means, but they just might need sometimes some help to analyze it, to figure out what it really means, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think of myself almost in some ways as like a midwife. Like I didn't make the baby, I didn't put it in the woman, but hopefully, if I'm doing my job right, I can help get it out, and it becomes a person. So, certainly the baby's not in me. The ideas, the answers are not in me. It wasn't my dream. So yeah, my role is definitely to try to, like a facilitate an understanding that hopefully see what is already there. I'm not trying to invent anything. I'm not trying to just make up a story that sounds good. I think the truth of it, the reality of it, the experience of it is so much better than faking it. I can't imagine ever being satisfied with that. Like, I'm just going to bamboozle this guy for 2 hours to make some content and make some money. I'm not making a lot of money, but even so, I just couldn't. That doesn't even interest me. Like, that's just like fake is unsatisfying.
Yeah, you're just a genuine person,
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, like, I understand. So I'm a nurse, so I work in a field of predominantly females, and sometimes I don't understand why these women take so much time and effort out of their day to, hurt or sabotage other people for like no reason, and that always blew my mind. It's just like, what kind of person can you be if you're taking time out of your day to hurt somebody? It's just like, how low a person you have to be to literally waste your time to try and hurt somebody else. That always blew my mind. Like, it's just like, I don't get it. Like, you could do nothing and and life goes on, but yet these people decide to take time and hurt somebody, and it's just like, why?
Yeah, no, for sure. And having worked in 20 years in inpatient psychiatric with nurses and doctors, I can personally attest to the level of just unbelievably petty power struggles that go on. I don't get it at all. I was never that guy. There were people who were like, if the idea didn't come from them, they hate it, and you're going to do what they say. And it really, a lot of that power struggle type of dynamic of trying to control other people. I've never understood it. And, it often made me angry too, because I'm like, that doesn't fly with me, personally, or watching someone else be bullied or taken advantage of. I'm like, I don't like that either. So I was in some confrontations of my own that I hope were useful and not just power struggles, but you never know sometimes.
Yeah. Like you mentioned before, it's like that collective consciousness. Like, we're all here to, make this world a better place. Why are you trying to like hurt one individual? But I have a question. Is there maybe a reason or explanation why some people in their dreams see people that they know versus people that have dreams that only dream with people that they have no idea who they are?
Yeah. Wow. This is a whole can of worms too. So historically, referencing the books one more time, there's a long tradition of, say, visitations from the dead in dreams, and that goes back to the story of Achilles and Patroclus in the Iliad, the story of the Trojan War. So what to do with that, I don't know. Are our ancestors' spirits really in our dreams talking to us, or are we just imagining that they do because we miss them, their presence, we appreciate their wisdom, we've been thinking about them, and they are on our mind because it's their birthday, and we just like to see them as a wish fulfillment. A lot of different layers of that. I would say it comes down to the specificity of certain ideas. So how would I explain that? If you have a dream you're at a carnival and the carnival ride operator is kind of this evil person and they won't let you off the ride, that's a kind of experience, but you don't recognize them. They're no one special. It isn't it's more of a generalized concept. It's not about a specific person. It's about maybe someone who's got you trapped somewhere you don't want to be, or the experience of being trapped. There's different layers. Now, if you imagine the person who's got you trapped on the carnival ride is your mother, that's going to mean something completely different. Okay, how's your relationship with your mother? Do you feel pressure from her to perform in certain ways? Do you feel like she's set you up to be trapped in a situation where you feel out of control? You're on a ride that you can't stop, and she refuses to stop. Then again, you can get into situations where let's say the person is someone you knew and they're doing something bad, but that was never who they were. It's like, why would you imagine, let's say your mother, you have a fantastic relationship with her. She's the sweetest, kindest person, and she would never trap you somewhere. But you're imagining her to be this evil carnival ride operator that will not let you out. Then we would look at okay, what is it about your mother that you think it's hard to imagine, to fake these, to make them up, because the questions are more connected to the specific imagery and it tells us more about the context. But we would look in a different direction, like, okay, well, so this is not actually your mother. There's the appearance of your mother, maybe, or there is maybe some aspect of your mother that you conceive of as controlling, but you don't want to admit it to yourself. I mean, that could be an angle to explore. Now, this is not where I'm going to go, this is what it means, pay the secretary on your way out. We're going to talk about that and try and get down into it. And I don't remember why I used that as an example. What was your question again?
Good.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why some people in their dreams see people that they know versus people that they have no idea who they are.
Yeah. And it can be very, so let's use a different example. There was another dream where I think a guy, what was it? It's very often that we conceptualize people as representing specific ideas or attitudes towards life. So if you have a dream, yesterday, that about a friend you haven't seen since college, we would talk about, okay, well, who was this friend? What was his personality like? And what was his approach to the world? What kind of shenanigans did he get up to? What kind of trouble was he in? What kind of success did he have in academics? And we start exploring what that the individual's concept of that person. Okay, now we put it in the context of the dream and say, why do we have this idea of a person enacting this specific behavior, which had this consequence? What is that meant to say? And it's there's an interesting thing we think of, and it's in common parlance that dreams have meaning, or they're trying to say something, as if dreams have a will of their own. I don't think it works like that. My concept of dreams is that first baseline, like physiologically, the lungs breathe, the heart beats, and the brain thinks, and that never stops. Not when we're awake or asleep until the day we die. There's always something going on, or until you get hit in the head and your brain dead or something. But just as our heart and lungs continue working while we're asleep, the brain continues to work, and that I believe is what dreams are. It is that stream of consciousness, undirected experience of our own thoughts. So there's the conscious experience of thinking, of focusing our attention, choosing words. We're translating our thoughts into speech for the purpose of putting my thoughts in your head. But that's not actually what our thoughts are. A lot of our thoughts are images and sensations and concepts that we have packaged in specific ways. So what we're doing with dreams, or when we remember a dream, what we're looking at is that undirected, unfiltered stream of consciousness of what our thoughts really are, is what I think is happening. So dreams are actually how we think, and then speech and communication are translating how we think into the ability to put my ideas in your head, basically. Because thoughts are not the same as, we don't really, if you think, talk to people too, and I think they've done research on this as well, people don't really think in words. We take our thoughts and we translate them into words. So thinking is actually something else. It's usually images and experiences and sensations and emotions. And then we we translate that into words. I think I've said that several times now. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know where I
But
don't
that
know where to
makes
go with
complete
it.